All right, well, we'll get started. Well, hello everyone. My name is John Rupert. I'm here with MUSC Sustainability, and you are at our Home Energy Savings event featuring Dominion Energy, the South Carolina Energy Office, and Batteries Plus Bulbs. With me today is Ginger Greenway with Dominion Energy, also Landon Masters with the South Carolina Energy Office, Russ Johnson with Batteries Plus Bulbs, and our intern, Rachel Whitbeck. So just to get started, I'm going to talk about what we do, the different areas we work in. We work in a variety of areas that are all under the umbrella of sustainability in energy, water, waste management, food, transportation, climate, green building, and resilience. And quick note, if you want to hear about more events like this, you can sign up for MUSC Sustainability's newsletter, which you can find to sign up on our website at musc.edu/gogreen. You can also find us on social media at the tag MUSC Go Green. And we're also on Yammer for MUSC internal folks. If you have any questions during the session, we will be addressing these at the end following all of the presenters' presentations. But feel free to ask during the event. And then also please use the Q&A panel to all panelists to ask these questions. And the way that you do this is I have two different sets of directions. Here on the left is on mobile. You'll click, there's three small dots on the bottom of your screen and click Q&A. And on the desktop, there should be a small panel in the bottom right that you can click the arrow on to expand. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ginger from Dominion Energy, who will begin talking to us about home energy savings and their programs. So Ginger, that should be passed to you now.
Okay. Can you see? Let's see. And can you see my screen? No? Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah. Might take a quick second. There we go.
Okay, you're seeing it? Okay, let me move that over here. Okay, well, thank you for the opportunity. And I'm going to focus on Dominion Energy South Carolina's residential programs. This is from our area of demand side management, but these are all basically energy efficient programs that are available to our residential customers. So if I can get this to advance. Okay, oh, went too far. Okay, so one of the programs we have is appliance recycling. And let me step back for a second and just say, this pandemic has really changed the way we're doing our business right now. So the appliance recycling program is where we will actually come and pick up an older, inefficient refrigerator, freezer, standalone freezer that are still working but are really kind of behind in their energy efficiency. So a lot of customers, when they're ready to replace that, instead of sticking it in the garage or the carport as a secondary, we'll come and pick it up and recycle it properly and send you a check for $50. So this is a program that for a while we were having the customer leave it outside their home, but now we are back entering the customer's home because we're in there a very short period of time, and we are following all COVID related safety measures and using proper PPE and doing the socially distancing from the customers to pick these up safely. So that's one program that's that people really like to take advantage of. Our EnergyWise Savings Store is available to the Dominion customers. And again, these are for South Carolina, and they must have at least electric service with us. They can also have gas, but they must have electric. And this store actually is online where customers can order discounted bulbs and other products, including smart thermostats, at a discounted price, and they're delivered to your door. So, and this just is some information. I think this is going to be covered about lighting, so I won't go into detail, but there's a lot of benefits from switching over from the old incandescents and even the CFLs to the LED bulbs. It gives really good output, and then also you're not using near the kilowatt hours that you would with the old bulbs. And this just gives an example of one LED can replace about 2.5 CFLs and 25 incandescents. So we have really, and there's different versions of LEDs, different brightness, different, we have all different levels of bulbs that can do replacements. So there's so many more options. They're not all just that bright white anymore. There's other options out there. So it's LED lighting has really come a long way in the last few years. Another program we have now, this one is for customers that own their homes. So this is, or it can also be a landlord situation, but the owner of the home is the one that would be available to these rebates, and that's replacement of heating and cooling equipment. And the rebates are now up to $500. And for ductwork improvements and replacement, $300. The good news about this is that, well, the good thing about this is that when you replace your unit, we're just trying to help you bridge that gap between a standard unit to one that's even more efficient. So that's what that $500 is out there to kind of help cover the cost of. So when you get to that point, just make sure you contact us to see what rebates may be available to you. And I know I'm going fast. So this program, the Home Energy Checkup, this is the program that I directly manage, and we have a team of 6 Dominion Energy employees that actually conduct these visits. So as you can imagine, when we started hearing about COVID, it was a challenge to figure out how we were going to deliver these programs in good quality with our customers. So for the Home Energy Checkup program, we stopped inside the home. March 16th was our date. And so we were taking extra safety precautions before that date, but then we just kind of, as things progressed, we just didn't feel like it was safe for our customers or our employees. So we kind of stopped for a little bit, and we figured out how to do a good visit that would add value for our customer, but also be safe for our customers, safe for our employees. So we now have the Home Energy Checkup, and it's a virtual visit. We have conducted over 400 now visits with our customers, and we do this through using either FaceTime or MS Teams, and even customers that aren't familiar with those, we can walk you through depending on what device you have. And then we'll also do it just by phone, so we can just have a conversation. And we do a walkthrough. It's kind of as involved as the customer wants to be. And then we will send the customer a report with our recommendations, and we kind of take a tour of their full home and then make our recommendations based on their whole home and their past usage. This is available as long as you have electric service with us. Whether you own the home or you rent, it's available to you. And then after the visit, we will deliver a pack of 5 LED bulbs free of charge and leave them on your doorstep. So, so we're doing those as well. We usually take the bulbs, it's within a week or two of after our visit. And then we're starting to offer some other measures as we move further into this. And we already have a kind of hybrid approach for the future that we're ready, but we're just kind of waiting because we, you know, our numbers with COVID in our state keep kind of jumping all over the place. So we want to see a consistent lowering of those numbers before we start going back into the home at, you know, in a regular way. But we've had so much success from this program that we feel like we're going to offer it going forward for customers, whether COVID is still around or not, because we've had a lot of customers that said, hey, I never would have taken part in this program if you didn't offer it virtually. So we've had a lot of good feedback on that. So, and then I thought I'd just share a couple of customer comments, and these came from our customers without prompting. So we got these emails later. And I know everyone can read, but we had a lot of people say this is their first time doing a virtual meeting. Please keep this program available. They learned a lot from their visit, got a much better understanding of how they're using energy. The energy rep was able to help them identify issues. And one thing I didn't mention, all of our energy representatives that go into customers' homes, they all have certifications on energy efficiency and through the BPI or Building Performance Institute. So they are very well trained to see how all your systems work together. So, and I think that's it. So if there's any questions or anything I can help answer, I'll be glad to.
Yeah, I just saw one just popped up in the chat. I figure I'll address it. There was one saying, do you guys offer LED landscape lighting?
I do believe that's available in the store. They're always making changes, so it just depends on what's available during that time. But the best thing to do is you can go to our website, and then you can get there that way. So I think I can, and I can also share a link. So there. Oh, I forgot about this. So we do this every year. So it's about time to do it for our past year, but this just kind of shows you the customer engagement, and then the energy saved. So, and this is a little bit out of date. We hadn't gotten the newer one, but at this time we had conducted about getting close to 22,000 home energy checkup visits. So.
Great. Well, I'm going to pass it on to Landon, who will be our next presenter from the State Energy Office. Thank you so much, Ginger.
Thank you.
Landon, do you have control of that now?
I do not.
All right, let me double check. There we go.
Okay, there we go.
Great. Yeah, just a reminder, if you have questions, please drop those in the Q&A panel, and we will try to address all the questions at the very end.
Well, thank you, John, for having us here to speak. My name is Landon Masters, and today I'm speaking on behalf of the State Energy Office, and I'm our Community Outreach and Communications Manager for the South Carolina Office of Regulatory Staff, which is the state agency that the Energy Office is housed within. The Energy Office does a number of different things, but there are three primary categories that the Energy Office focuses on, and those are energy efficiency, renewable energy, and clean transportation. And then within those three categories, does a number of other things, such as technical assistance, providing financial assistance, education and outreach, so doing presentations like this, and then also maintaining the data clearinghouse. So any kind of data that is associated with these three areas, the Energy Office maintains that. As part of the planning for state energy policy, the Energy Office implements the state energy plan, so it helps to bring together stakeholders to identify areas in the state within energy policy that we can make changes. One of the most recent endeavors that the Energy Office has undertook was the Energy Efficiency Roadmap project, which resulted in a number of recommendations, and that final report will be released sometime next month. So we're still waiting on that final report, but we will be sharing that once that gets shared or gets finalized. It's important to note that the funding for the State Energy Office comes from the National State Energy Program through the U.S. Department of Energy. So this is not state funded, but it is through a programmatic grant from the U.S. Department of Energy. And there are energy offices in every single state throughout the U.S. And every territory and D.C. And the U.S. Department of Energy uses the State Energy Office to help guide their research, a lot of their research that they do at a federal level, as well as to look at, what is going on in different regions, collecting data, and so that they can make larger decisions from a federal level as well. So this month is a really exciting time for the Energy Office, for energy in general. It is Energy Action Month, and today is actually Energy Efficiency Day. So Energy Action Month was declared and has been declared by the governor for quite a while now, probably over a decade. And we have the proclamation right there. The full proclamation is linked on our website. But it pulls out and identifies a lot of those key tenets that the Energy Office focuses on, and hopes to encourage folks to take action during Energy Action Month. And whether that's something small, like Ginger mentioned, switching to LED light bulbs, or looking at larger commitments like taking that fridge and replacing it with a newer, more efficient one, and then going and getting that rebate, or switching to something like a tankless hot water heater or something that would be a larger commitment. So we're encouraging folks to take those actions, however small or large they are, and do something this month. I mentioned today is Energy Efficiency Day, and we did hold the second annual Energy Hour this morning, from 10:07 to 11:07. And this is just an annual event where we're encouraging folks to take 1 hour out of their day to focus on energy, whether that's in your organization, whether that's with your family, however it is. We internally within the Office of Regulatory Staff did an internal training where the Energy Office actually presented for the rest of the agency on what they can do to be more efficient in their homes and in the office. And it was really successful in trying to get folks engaged. So I encourage you, if you didn't participate this year, to look out for that next year on Energy Efficiency Day. We will host the third annual Energy Hour. So we did recently launch our energysaver.sc.gov website. This is a website that is focused only on energy efficiency and specifically programs that folks can take advantage of in order to be more efficient. This came from the result of the state energy plan and a recommendation to look at financing programs. So on this website, you'll see that there are a number of home energy tips, tips for the home, as well as tips for your business. Everything from the design of your home when you're looking at building or choosing a home to purchase, to heating and cooling. So things like your HVAC systems, looking at efficiency of fans, ceiling fans in your home, saving electricity and fuel. So things like your electronics that you may have plugged in, or your vehicle that you drive, how much energy is that using and how can you be more efficient with that vehicle or electronic. And then weatherization, looking at what you currently own or live in and how can you weatherize that to be more efficient. I specifically wanted to point out that we have tips on apartments and rentals, because that is an area that folks have a lot of questions about, and there are some limitations to what you can do in an apartment or a rental based on what your landlord will allow. But we do have some tips on there specifically for folks that are living in an apartment or renting a home. So when you go to energysaver.sc.gov, you'll see that there is the Energy Saver tool, which is where all the programs or funding opportunities, incentives, everything lives. This is the database of all programs that consumers can take advantage of. And we try to make it very simple and have a few simple questions that folks can answer, and it'll lead them to the opportunities that may be available to them. So the first question will be, whether you're looking for programs that apply for your home or for your business. Say you were to click for your home, you'll be asked who your electric or natural gas utility is. If you don't know your electric utility, we have a map that folks can look for that as well. But when you start typing it in, those will automatically populate. And then once you click your electric utility, you can designate if you think that you're eligible for low income household programs, because there are some specific programs that have qualifications for low income consumers. After that, you'll come to a screen that shows you all those programs that you're eligible for. And you can click on the link of the program name to go to an external website. So right there, we have their energy appliance recycling. So you can see we have the information, the description there about that $50 incentive, and then contact information if you want to ask more questions and don't want to, necessarily go to the website. One of the cool things about this is that you're able to export these programs or print them to a actually printer-friendly PDF. So if you're a church or an organization at a school or another group and you want to share, in your community, here's, everything that you could be taking advantage of. You could put in your utility, your area, and export all those programs to share and print if you'd like as well, or send a PDF via email or something like that. There's also the opportunity to search by category. So if you don't, want to go through that, the questionnaire, you can, and you're just looking for programs that are specific about solar or transportation or just all the rebates that are available or grants and loans, things like that. You can click on the different categories and it'll bring up those programs, or you can export a list of all the programs, which if you're a nerd and like those things like that, like me, then you'll want to do that to look through and see what is available everywhere. But we do have all those options on the website, energysaver.sc.gov. And I'll end my part of the presentation with a plug for a webinar that we're actually doing next week on October 14th, where we're going to do a deep dive into the Energy Saver tool. And we're going to talk about, everything, specific down to, here's where you can download those PDFs and print them and things like that. We're going to actually do a demonstration of the webinar. So I'd encourage you, if you have, or of the tool. So I'd encourage you, if you have more questions about that or want to see a more in-depth demonstration, to register for that. And that is on the Energy Office website. So that's on energysaver.sc.gov. We have the or energy.sc.gov, we have the registration link on our events calendar. There's my contact information.
Thank you so much, Landon. I'm going to pass it over to Russ Johnson with Batteries Plus Bulbs. And then following that, we can address questions from the audience. I know a couple have popped up since then. And also a quick note, the light bulb store, I dropped the link for that in the chat window that Ginger mentioned that Dominion has for discounted light bulbs.
Excellent. First of all, John, I want to thank MUSC for giving us the opportunity to kind of talk about some ideas that consumers and businesses can use to help save them some money on their energy and try to save them just some money in general. Today, I'm just going to talk about a little bit of some home automation products and also LED light bulbs. Seems like a lot of people know about LED light bulbs, but there's some different variations of those, some different ideas, color temperatures and things like that. Just kind of give a little general idea on that. Home automation is just kind of a interesting word, I guess, for being able to control anything in your house, whether it be lighting, climate, entertainment, light bulbs, sockets, and that stuff. There, it's become very popular. I don't think you can walk down a street now without seeing cameras outside or wireless doorbells. As people come up and that stuff there. Just had some general statistics here that we're able to kind of compile. Household penetration right now is about 9.3% in 2020. It's expected to double in the next 4 years. So it's a pretty amazing rate that it's growing at right now. And inside of that, it kind of breaks it down in some different categories. They call it smart appliances, energy management, control and connectivity, comfort and lighting, and security. I think a lot of the ones that people have gravitated to now is the security. whether it be the doorbells or the cameras outside. Some things that are really starting to gain traffic now is, I guess, in the control and connectivity and the comfort and lighting. And Batteries Plus, we have something called Smart Home, and I'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. Different ideas that you can use at your house that might help you save money, so you don't have to have lights on all the time, or for some safety reasons, if you're not going to be home. This right here just kind of is that penetration report talking about it, how it's going to grow now between, from 2020 up to 2024 in the different categories and that stuff there. Like I mentioned, Batteries Plus, we've partnered with a company called Smart Home Solutions. Basically, they got product lines anywhere ranging from smart lighting, cameras, doorbells, garage door openers, and smart switches. Some of the real popular ones that we've seen is the cameras outside and also the doorbells. Ring doorbell seems to be the primary, one in this category. They've been doing it for a long time. Smart Home has been in the market for about a year or two, partner with some different companies. You can get light bulbs that will change colors. You can control any of these products with an app on your telephone. They basically work with your, all your common things: Amazon, Alexa, Google Assistant, Apple Home. A couple of the things that I actually have at my home, which I think is kind of interesting. My wife and I are married. We don't have any kids, but we're not home a lot. You can actually program it to turn lights on. You can buy sockets that'll plug into your wall, and so a light will come on and off. You can turn it on and off and program it at different times to make it believe that somebody's actually in the house all the time. For single parents or parents that have kids that are worried, if they're not there a lot, you can actually make it look like somebody's actually inside of your house, turning on lights in different rooms. I think that's kind of a neat feature that they have there. Couple other things that they've got like LED strips. If you've got businesses, want to put them underneath cabinets, or for example, like bars and restaurants, I've seen them like in the backgrounds behind bottles of alcohol and that stuff there. It can really accentuate some things there in your home or in your businesses and that stuff there. So there's a lot of products. It's obviously on our website, batteriesplus.com. You can see that there. So I just want to kind of talk a little bit about that there. The next thing I want to talk about that you can really help save, and both Ginger and Landon had spoken about it, is LED light bulbs. The Dominion program in the state of South Carolina is a great program both for consumers and businesses. Businesses, they've got a great program where, if you're going to switch over from older style incandescent or halogen light bulbs or even fixtures to new LED, as long as you go through a process and a pre-approval to get pre-approved before doing it, I would say you get about 30 to 50% of the cost of your project back right up front. And that doesn't include anything, including on the topic as far as, what you're going to save on the energy side. I believe Ginger had spoken about 60 watt, incandescent bulbs versus an LED bulb. Basically, you go from 60 watts down to a 9 watt bulb, and it still produces the same amount of light. And in conjunction with that, I'm sure everybody goes to, if you haven't been to Batteries Plus, or if you've been to a Lowe's or a Home Depot, you'll see something like I've got on my screen. It'll be a box and they'll call it a color temperature. The interesting thing about color temperatures and light bulbs, in the background right here, this is the exact same background of a picture of three different same pictures. Usually in light bulbs, what we're used to seeing is incandescent, is what we like to call a soft white or a warm white. You're used to seeing that yellowish color. And so when you have that sort of color, what it's going to do is going to accentuate all the yellow colors. In the middle here, you have what's called cool white, which is 4,000 or 4,100 color temperature. It's kind of in the middle. It's going to accentuate, your middle colors. But if you get over here on the right-hand side, it's what's called bright white. You're going to accentuate all the blue colors. So essentially, the color light bulb that you have is going to portray what color your visual eye is going to see. Unbeknownst to me, 5 or 6 years ago, we got involved in light bulbs, And I come to find out that, if you walk into a jewelry store, they don't have any soft white light bulbs anywhere in that store. Everything in that store is what's called bright white. You know what I mean? And so when you look at those diamonds, I mean, you really see the blue sparkling through there. It's like you walk outside and look at it outside in the daylight, and it looks like you almost bought a different, something different. So the color temperature is very important. For people, I'll be turning 50 this year. Your eyes start to get a little bit harder to read things. You definitely want to start using more of a bright white light bulb. It's going to help you read a lot better. But the ladies out there, you want to make sure in your bathrooms, and your bedrooms, you would never want to use what I would call bright white. You'd always want to make sure to use soft white, because if you're putting on makeup or things like that, you're going to definitely see a different visual in the mirror. So that's one of the things, I think there's a perception that, LED light bulbs only come in one color, or they only have one function. Depending upon what you're trying to use your light for, one, you want to get the energy savings by switching to LED, but you want to make sure to get the right color temperature, for the room or for the project that you're using. Another thing I think is kind of interesting that people don't know about is people are used to seeing a lot of the old incandescent, what I like to call vintage light bulbs, the one that look like, from the old schools back in 30s or 40s. Well, many of the manufacturers, including Duracell, who's one of our primary vendors, has started making different size light bulbs in LED. So if you've got a deck out in the back, or you want to accentuate a room with some real kind of nice lighting and that stuff there, you don't have to use a 75 watt bulb that's going to cost you a bunch of money and that stuff there. You do have a bunch of different options, different styles, and it's hard to see here, but at night when you see this, you'll actually really see what looks like an Edison bulb, with the actual filament and that stuff going through there. So that's another thing I kind of wanted to highlight. One last thing, just want to say in regards to saving money and that stuff there. SCE&G and Dominion has got a great program. She spoke about that on their website. If you own a home, once a year, I know they allow you to, purchase bulbs at a significant discount. I mean, cheaper than I could even buy them for my vendors. So I definitely recommend people to take advantage of that. But if you've got a business and you've got older style 4-foot fluorescent tubes or fixtures, and you're interested, certainly Batteries Plus or any other lighting vendor that has Dominion would certainly love to try to help you guys out about switching over to LED. Obviously, it would reduce your kilowatt hours. It would reduce Dominion's kilowatt hours. So if you have any questions, you can certainly contact any one of the Batteries Plus stores. You could ask for Russ Johnson, myself, or any of my trusted advisors. They would certainly be willing to help you there. So anybody's got any questions at all in the chat, feel free to put it in there. Otherwise, I think I'll pass it back on to you, John.
Great. Thank you so much, Russ. Really enjoyed it. Yeah, so now we're just open for questions. I do have a couple here through the Q&A panel. The first question I have is actually for Ginger for Dominion's programs. They ask, are stoves included in the pickup recycling program?
They are not. This is just for refrigerators and freezers, full size at this time.
Great, good to know. And with that, I'll pass it to Rachel, who has the next question.
Yeah, we have another one in the chat from Joan Whitbeck for Landon. And she's wondering if your agency views pollution that's caused by energy used currently, like for transportation. So I think she means like researching how the pollution affects the environment.
So we work really closely with our South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control, and they have a Bureau of Air Quality that looks at a lot of the impacts of emissions on, greenhouse gas emissions, things like that, from the transportation sector. And we do have our clean transportation arm of the Energy Office, which I actually used to be the clean transportation contact for the Energy Office. So I know that topic fairly well. We have a Palmetto Clean Fuels Coalition that looks at all types of fuels like electric vehicles, with also compressed natural gas vehicles, propane vehicles, every kind of fuel that you could think of, and how those also impact energy use and emissions. I'll say that the Energy Office focuses primarily on the petroleum reduction and the energy impacts, but we know that those have an impact and can significantly impact on emissions. One of the not cool things, but a fun fact to note that could maybe change, but is that transportation has actually surpassed the energy sector, electricity sector in emissions, greenhouse gas emissions. So when you look at what is impacting emissions from an energy perspective, transportation is a large piece of that. So we're definitely actively looking at alternative ways to reduce the petroleum used and subsequently the emissions from the transportation sector.
Great. The next question I have was sent to me and is for Ginger. Terry Lynn is asking about the LED bulb store, so more stuff on bulbs. And she was curious if you happen to know, and maybe this is something to follow up on later, but if the LED bulbs are bright or what the color temperature is on those from that website.
So there is a variety, and like I said before, they do they have some staples and then they change some things out. I did find out we don't currently have landscape lighting available, but we have been talking about it. So, and I thought we had, I just didn't want to, it's not out there yet. But there are all kinds of varieties of light out there. So, and you can get up to 15 bulbs per rolling calendar year. So under that program. And then there are also some other things that you can get. There's smart thermostats out there. And there's some other water conservation products out there. So it's really worth to take a look out there, or you can call into our customer service center and then we can get you hooked up that way.
Great. Yeah, so I think that's all the questions that I see in the Q&A at the moment. Does anyone else have another question that's popped up for them?
I actually had a question for Russell from the industry perspective. What have you seen in terms of trends of buyers, or what are the common questions, I guess, that you get when customers are coming in asking about different types of lighting for their home?
I think one of the biggest things that we get when we come in, there seems to be still a perception that when we say to a customer LED, the first response is they'll say, "You're talking about the curly Qs, like the spiral CFLs." So I think there's still a misconception out there of the LED bulbs are the older style CFL bulbs. But I think the biggest thing that we come in is when they come into our store, the LED box that I showed. They come in and the first thing that they say is, I want to get a brighter bulb. And then, so the question is for us, we try to take them down a road, ask a few questions. What are they using it for? What type of application? Because then we want to sell them a bulb that they're happy with and it fixes their problem. That's one of the main things that we see. The other thing I think that a lot of people don't know about is, just how much money you can save by switching over to LED. I tell people, if you were to take your whole household and just switch it completely over at one time, you'd probably see a 25% minimum drop on your energy bill, because you just don't realize how much you're using. If you've got a 60 watt bulb at everything and all of a sudden you drop that down to 9 watts at every single room, you're going to see a huge drop off. I kind of had a little side story in a business project when we first got involved in this. Most customers and the other vendors like myself, when you do this, a customer is going to go want a return on investment on their project. So before we even start something, I can put in an Excel spreadsheet and share with them information. Here's what you're currently paying. We're going to switch to here. Here's what kind of incentive I think that you're going to receive on your bill after you convert over, let's just say, your whole restaurant that you're doing. And so I did a projection, and our projections, and I think similar on your website, we tend to shoot low on the bar. And I told the guy that we'd be able to do save him about $175 a month. And he's like, wow, that's pretty good. I'm going to have my payback in less than a year for his project. And I'm like, yeah, yeah. And, and he's like, okay. He's like, well, I said, just do me a favor. In about 3 months, give me a call back after, you've had a couple billing cycles. So he calls me back and he says, Russ, we got a real problem here. And I'm like, oh, geez, now what? And he says, well, I'm saving about $230 a month. And you told me I was only going to save $175. I'm like, well, we got that kind of problem. Then I think we're doing pretty good. So, I think that people just don't realize how much, they pay to have light bulbs. I mean, down here with the fluctuations of temperature, it's one thing. But I mean, the light bulbs is something in your house that, you can, spend some money on. I know like on our prices here, the prices of LED light bulbs have come down considerably. You can get like an 8-pack of 60 watt equivalent light bulbs for $13. It ends up being about $1.62 a bulb. I mean, 3 years ago, you used to pay $5 per bulb for that. So I think sometimes people think that LED bulbs are really expensive, but the technology has really come down.
Great. I have a general question just kind of to all the presenters. Just kind of what your take would be on the biggest bang for your buck energy measure you could take if you're a homeowner, if you just had a limited budget. So if you're like, I can't do everything, but I want to do a couple small things. I'm going to start with Russ. I assume you're going to say LED light bulbs based off the last answer.
Yeah.
But we'll do Russ, Ginger, and then Landon.
Yeah, for me, obviously, it would be light bulbs. I mean, LED is the way to go. A lot of people, especially in the newer homes, you've got the can lights. And I mean, you were putting 60 watt, 65 watt, halogens or incandescent bulbs in those can lights. You go to change one and burn your hand. Now you put in a 12 or a 15 watt LED. I mean, you can leave that on all day long and go touch it and you can unscrew it. So, I guess it's just the same thing. LED light bulbs would be the best thing we could recommend from our business.
Great. What about your thoughts, Ginger?
Yep. So there's a lot on this topic, but I'll start with just some general, especially if you're in an older home and if you haven't made upgrades. But what we see is, the biggest user for most customers is heating and cooling. And so that's usually our focus with the home as the first level. And of course, you can upgrade attic insulation and that can make a big difference. That's a pretty quick return on investment. But we really want customers to do their homework before they make a big investment. That's why our visit is a really good place to start, because we're going to focus on low cost, no cost. So just a couple of, I'm trying to make it quick. But one thing is, instead of the old programmable thermostats, is to go with more of a smart thermostat. What we would find over the years, and we've been doing this now, my immediate area, we've been doing this over 10 years. And what we found was with visiting customers' homes is the programmable thermostats were so complicated, the old style, that people weren't programming them, or they weren't programmed to work efficiently. Smart thermostats are super easy. So we prefer you have a digital thermostat that you control or a smart thermostat that you can control from your smart device or manually. So really focusing on, I know y'all, for summer, 78 or higher, or winter, now that we're switching over, 68 or lower. But just get as close to those as you can, and especially if you're away from home. I know it's hard right now when so many people are working from home. We have seen an increase in customers' usage because so many people are at home, but heating and cooling are really the area to focus, and thermostat management is a really good place. Using ceiling fans instead of as much air conditioning or in conjunction with your air conditioning. So those are a few, but I could go on for hours.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And I would say just if someone is, on a very stringent budget, that the most energy saved is the energy that you don't use. So first, if you don't have any money to spend, the best thing that you can do is try to use as little energy as you can. Make sure that you're not leaving lights on, even if there are LED. I know we've heard some folks saying, well, I have LEDs, they're not using that much energy, but encourage your children, your spouse, whoever, to turn off the lights and unnecessary electronics as well when you're not using them. Vampire power is a thing. So if you have things that are plugged in, things like a game console or even televisions and things like that, they will use energy and electricity even when they're not on. Although it is a small amount, it is still using electricity. So I think my answer first, if you have no money, would be try to use as little as you can and make some behavior changes. And if you do have a little bit of money, do things like caulking, looking for those cracks and ways that your heat or air is escaping. If you can't invest in a new HVAC unit, making sure your home envelope is as efficient as possible is going to be really, really important. Insulation is another big thing, making sure that you have enough insulation to keep the energy that you are using to heat and cool in your house. Those are just a couple of small things, in addition to all the other wonderful things that they had just mentioned.
Great. I think those are all great answers. This is one question that I get a lot that I'm going to turn over to you, Landon. Some people are concerned if it's like worth turning something off, even if you're going to be out of the room for like 3 minutes or something like that, because they think there's going to be a ramp up in power. What do you tell people that ask that?
So if are you talking about lights or are you talking about?
Yeah, let's say lights or a computer or things like that.
Well, I know we get this question a lot with your computer, folks that, we tell people, shutting down your computer at the end of the day, or at least having your computer go to sleep. A lot of people say, well, won't that, hurt my computer, that it's having to restart. And in the research that we've done, it does not show any significant, effects on your electronics that you have. Maybe just on your time, because you'll have to wait for it to reboot, but yeah, that doesn't really have any effect. And I think the same would be for, for other electronics as well. I don't think that there would be any significant effect that, would make it so it would be better for you to leave it on.
Great.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, I was gonna say if other
Okay.
people can add.
Yeah, well, I was just, sorry, yeah. So we get the question a lot about turning, like in the air, in the summer, turning your air conditioner up, that it takes more, then you got to cool your house back down. We have just found that simply not to be true. I mean, we're not, our recommendation isn't that you up and down every hour, but if you're going to be away from home, say, when we ever get back to our real, what we're used to, 8 or 10 hours a day, and if you can bump it up a few degrees so that it's not cycling on throughout that time that no one's at home, you're going to save energy. And we've got example after example of that with our customers that have followed that. So, and if you're one of those that, you keep it on 72 or 74 in the summer, try bumping it up a degree or two and see if you can get comfortable with that thermostat setting and then move it up. So, and then just try to progress upwards and get get that thermostat up as high as you can. Y'all know in South Carolina, so your air conditioning is also, its job is also to get that humidity out of the home. So it's doing double duty sometimes. And y'all, our summers and into September this year with these hot temperatures. So just, really, really focusing on that and taking control of that can really help. And I wouldn't have people worrying about it's going to cost more to cool it back down, or it's going to make my system surge, or we just haven't seen any of that happen. And so.
Great. Thanks, Ginger.
And I wanted to answer, I saw a question that came through the Q&A box about emissions from ships. And I'm thinking probably specifically around the Charleston area, Charleston Port. There are a lot of those large cargo ships that are coming into the area. And we have worked with the South Carolina Ports Authority and in talking about some of those issues. But I'll say emissions specifically, they do fall under the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. So when you're talking about the agency that may be looking at those emissions, that would be, for that specific example, I think more of a federal thing, that there are standards that they have to meet in the fuel that they're using, although that is a little bit of a contentious topic, but I know that the US EPA would probably be the best folks to look out for more information on that. And of course, you could contact the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. Their Bureau of Air Quality, I'll say, is going to be your best contact to get additional resources, specifically on emissions from chips.
Great. That's all the questions that I can see. Does anyone else have any questions or, statements for the end here?
Hey, John, I saw something in the chat that somebody looks like they asked if it was going to be available recorded and would it be sent out as a link? Maybe you could refer to that.
Absolutely. So to address that, yes, we're recording this right now, and we will post this video closed captioned within probably about 2 weeks, roughly. And the best way to find that is actually to sign up for our newsletter, which you can find on our website. You can sign up at musc.edu/gogreen, or we will also be posting this to our YouTube page and our social media profiles. So all of those are ways to access this video when it comes out in about 2 weeks.
Excellent.
And yeah, feel free to share with other people that couldn't come today. I'm sure there's a lot of people that could benefit from this information. But thank you all so much. Thank you, Russ. Thank you, Ginger, Landon, and thanks for your help, Rachel. Hope you all have a great day. Any other last thoughts?
I will say if there are additional questions, too, feel free to send myself an email or reach out and ask those questions, because I know that today we were specifically focusing on home energy savings, but there are a lot of different questions that range from everything from solar to more deep dives into transportation. And we in the Energy Office are involved in all those aspects, so we can usually answer any question that folks and consumers have. And if we can't answer it, we'll probably know who can. We may send them to folks like Russell or to Ginger to answer those questions, but yeah, we're here to help.
Great. Well, thank you all, and thanks everyone for attending, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you having us.
Thank you so much.
See ya. Bye.